Lisa. Before we hop into your session, I'm going to go over a couple of things just so I can answer any questions you might have beforehand. I pulled you some oracle cards. We won't go over them in the session, but I will send you pictures in their guidebook descriptions because that'll be a deeper level of messaging. And then I built you a crystal grid. I asked each one of your chakras what would help with their healing and growth, and I'll send you a picture as well. And then I will get the replay to you today or tomorrow. Does that sound okay?
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So I see with the notes that you left me here that you wanted to talk about soul purpose and inner child healing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything in particular question wise or anything that you want to focus on specifically, or did we want to see what kind of comes up? I have a feeling there's something something specific. Okay.
Woo!
But
Yes,
yeah.
there is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Um, my mom is moving in with me next week.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of like old pain still coming up and out.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to be like clean to help her and change and shift our relationship at this
Absolutely.
point.
Okay. And if you need to grab some tissues, that's okay too. And it's also okay to
Thank
cry.
you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So how are you feeling about her moving in?
I'm really excited. I
Hmm.
think I live in a very healing place and I'm excited that um she gets to experience this place
Hmm.
and to be nurtured. I think she needs a lot of nurturing, and so I'm excited to provide that for her. I'm also nervous
Hmm.
because her mental health, she can go really up and she can go really down. And so I think my only expectations are to help her like acclimate to a new environment, and help her if she gets into a really low space, help
Hmm.
nurture her, like ground and feel better and just, you know, I think my anxiety is really just around the old feelings. Like if she says something that triggers me, like how to just like not really feel what that feels like to as much as I did up to this point, it's like I wanted to like feel more like, yep, that's my story, or yep, that's the
Hmm.
history, instead of like feeling the intense emotional response to it.
Right. Like it's happening now.
Right.
Right. Okay. Okay. Is she elderly?
She's turning 80 this next month.
Okay.
So she's been isolated and in not a good environment, and it really
Mhm.
aged her.
Yeah.
So um yeah, I would say she's gonna have some needs,
Well,
you
that's so
know.
lovely of you to help her. My grandmother raised me, and then I ended up taking care of her at the end after my grandfather passed, while I was taking care of my son. And it was triggering.
Hmm.
There was a lot of healing. Okay,
Hmm.
that I had to learn how to do, especially because of the things that you're saying too, like, hey, these aren't happening now, right? But they're still in
Yeah.
there. So do you have anybody to help you as well with her? Does she have any type of like medical caretakers or anything like that?
Well, part of one of the issues is she has been refusing medical care. And so before in the planning of her coming, I signed her up to meet, like to have a doctor who I
Hmm.
very much trust, and he's also a naturopath. And so I feel like it will start, hopefully she'll start um, getting help in that way.
Beautiful. What about anybody coming out to the house or anything? Or do you even need somebody to do that?
I don't think we need anyone to do that. As far as like medical energy work, I do have people that will come to the house, and I've already set up an appointment for her to do like chakra cleanse,
Hmm.
kind of Reiki work with her.
Great.
So,
Okay. Do you have a 3D job? Okay.
yep.
So we have a place to go to. We're not at home all the time.
Oh,
Because
that kind of job. No, I
okay.
work from the computer.
Oh, you work from your home computer?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So something that I found was really beneficial because when my grandmother moved into the house with me, my house had always been kind of my sanctuary, and I had been living with myself for by myself with my son for a really long time. And even though I love my grandmother so much, um, I felt like I didn't have my own space anymore.
Mhm.
And so I made sure to find other spaces outside of the house that could provide that for me, like the library
Mhm.
or going to like a bookstore or just somewhere where I could go be in my own energy and take a breath. So I would recommend that of finding some
Yeah.
places that we can drive nearby
Fortunately, yeah,
to.
I live on a beach that's like a 7 mile stretch and it's
Oh,
majestic
nice. Okay.
and gorgeous. And so anytime I need to be with myself, I can just go for a walk.
Yeah. Yeah. How are we feeling about taking on the caretaker role?
I'm actually really excited about it.
Hmm.
One of my regrets or like I didn't feel good that she was 3,000 miles away and nobody was
Yeah.
taking care of her and I was missing out on that, for me too in our relationship, so I'm actually pretty excited about it, you
Yeah.
know.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I first and this all makes sense now. When I tapped into your energy field before we got on, I got some notes from your higher self and your inner children. But I felt a lot of anger in your
Mhm.
chest, in your heart space. And part of that has to do with your spiritual gifts and your soul mission and helping people with specific things, which we'll talk about. But that also makes sense with your inner children feeling some anger and resentment because of certain things that have transpired in childhood or teenage years, right? And then preemptively feeling that they are going to be triggered.
Mhm.
Okay. So what kind of plan do you have for when that happens? As you're an energy healer, like you know, but it's still hard to catch sometimes. So let's say that you do get triggered. What would be your next steps there?
Yeah, I've been learning how to play musical instruments, and so that's such a healing tool for me. So I
Awesome.
think, you know, if I start getting triggered, then it's go to the music room and shut the door and just play music as a meditation, and
Mhm.
it really helps me.
Absolutely. Okay. What about having conversations with those inner children and those teens to further explain to them, like, hey, I know that those things happened in the past, but they're not happening right now.
Mhm.
And not necessarily detaching from them, but coming in as the higher self, that multidimensional awareness and saying, hey, I love you and you are safe and what has happened with mom or however you like to call her, okay, what has happened with mom, those are all things that have happened in the past, and because we're in her energy field and she is in our home, it's pulling up those past memories and it's pulling up that PTSD and trauma in our body right now. But what a beautiful opportunity to heal and for me to come in as that parent and that guardian and to give you what she was not able to.
Right.
And in doing that, we can heal that relationship with her being in your home, right? Because now they're not going to be externally seeking that from her. They'll be internally seeking it from you. But you're going to have to do a little bit of work when you do get triggered of figuring out what is it that they are pining for specifically.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because it sounds like there's a lot of abandonment stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So seeing her over and over again, right? Even though she's there, that's how it kind of was probably in childhood too. She's there. She's not like in the ways that we need. Okay. So
Right.
we need to figure out what is it that they need in those moments when they're getting triggered that you need to redirect to them. What can I do for you? Because
Yeah.
that's what the triggering is going to come in, like the anger, right? So it's like, hey, we don't need that from her.
Mhm. Mhm.
I am the healed adult now. Can I
Right.
give that to you instead?
Right. Right. I like that. That resonates with me. I think I just need to put that into habit, when it comes up and, be in the habit of, I think it's like giving voice to it, like
Hmm.
say what you feel, you know.
Oh, absolutely. If especially if you didn't feel seen, heard, and validated as a child, often if you can go into your music room and kind of lift your vibration frequency up a little bit first so they're not catastrophizing and like spiraling, right? And just say,
Right.
hey, let's play like our instruments really quick. Let's have a conversation internally. And I want you to tell me why you're upset. It's not you like this, Lisa. It's them. That's where all that triggering stuff is coming from. So we need to figure out what's going on with them. If you
Mhm.
can separate yourself from their consciousness just a little bit,
Mhm.
it doesn't take over.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that's what you're nervous about right now is like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like go in the throes of it, right? And are we gonna catch that every time? No, probably, especially like at the beginning when she first starts integrating into the home, and that's okay. But we need to maybe music room that you have can be that anchor point of, if I feel that my central nervous system is going out of whack, okay, or these memories or thought patterns or whatever, that is my cue that I need to go into this music room. And if I am in this music room, that must mean that I need to talk to my inner children.
Mhm.
There's something going on. And not every time. Sometimes you just want to go in there for fun too. So let's not bond it to trauma.
Right, right.
Right? My central nervous system gets activated, music room. Okay, what's going on with the kids?
Mhm.
And just ask them questions like, why are you upset? Also validating them, like, it's okay to be very angry at her.
Mhm.
It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be sad. All those feelings are totally fine. It does not mean that we're a bad person.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we're going to treat her differently. It means that all of those feelings and emotions that y'all felt when you were younger never got validated. So I need to do that for you now.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean anything about Lisa having
Right.
those thought patterns of mom. Because one, that's probably an old identity of mom.
Right, right. Absolutely.
And we kind of need to have that conversation with them of, hey, if we're coming in, and I know this is difficult, if we're coming in with a lot of baggage, we're going to end up projecting on her
Mhm.
and saying we kind of have to clean slate it here, especially because she's going to be around us so often. And just, we need to be interacting with her as the new version, the new identity. And then
Right.
we as a unit over here in the music room or beach need to process the old identity of mom.
Mhm. Right, right.
Okay, what comes up when I say that? Or how do you think they feel hearing that?
I think that's it's very helpful. Like I think that from what I'm feeling, like it doesn't matter if she's able to validate the feelings or hear. I actually don't think it would be very helpful if we
Probably
went
not.
down the road of like all of that. I think it would just it would sting and she might like get stuck in the sting.
She's got the mental issues. She's elderly. Is
Yeah.
she even going to understand? She's from a different
Yeah.
generation. Like that's just, and
Yeah.
the validation that she could give you is nowhere near the validation that you could give them.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, it feels good, and I feel like I'm just gonna have to put it into habit, and I think
Yeah.
I'll get better at it, and it's something that I've been, working towards, in my
Mhm.
healing journey. So it feels like that's the natural progression of like I'm ready for that now, and the timing couldn't be better.
Yeah. Perfect. And this is going to be a great blessing for you too, even though it's intense. You have all of this stuff that's like down in there. And once you go through these processes to release that stuff with them, it is going to make you feel like a completely different person. So we need to be like, hey, I know this is not fun to do with this. Okay. Like, just like, hey, I know this isn't super fun to process all this stuff. But after we feel the anger and we feel the frustration, you have to tell them too, like, hey, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, actually, and she was saying that, hey, when I look back at these memories, sometimes I feel very detached from them. I don't actually
Mhm.
feel them in my body. And I'm like, that's because you have a lot of tools and resources and you raise your consciousness and you can look at things objectively. I said, that's not getting the emotions out though. The kids are still holding on to that stuff. I said, you have to give
Yeah.
them permission to use your body to process those things. So
Mhm.
it's almost having coming in and saying, let me hold your hand
Mhm.
while we feel the anger together, while we feel the sadness, while we feel the frustration. Let me carry some of that for you so they don't have to feel it so intensely. And just reminding them after we do that, we're going to feel so much better. We might be a little tired, but we
Right.
will feel so much better and y'all will feel seen, heard, and validated. And just reminding them, I don't care how angry you get.
Mhm.
I don't care if you use curse words. I don't care if you think these evil thoughts, whatever, because sometimes they don't want to be very forthcoming, especially with you being an energy healer and they know about transmuting things and they're like, oh, I don't want to say that because it makes me a bad person, right? No, just say how you feel.
Mhm.
We want to have a very non-judgmental space with them
Mhm.
because the thoughts that they're thinking are different than the ones that you're thinking
Mhm. Mhm.
because they're coming from a child consciousness.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So Let me see what your higher self is saying here. Oh, the feeling in your body. How are you at feeling emotions in your body?
So when I talk about my mother and the pain around our relationship, I get a huge, like, it feels like I can't breathe.
Yeah, it's like closing up here. Yeah, it's like almost trying to like come up and get stuck right there.
I feel it. It's always where it goes. And sometimes even after having a long conversation with her, I'll have like, it'll be red, it's like,
Mm, yes. Okay. Well, that's scary because we want to breathe. Okay. Okay. Like when you get a tight, because I've felt that before. When you get that up in here, it's like, oh, this is scary stuff. Okay. So what I would suggest, or what your higher self was actually just suggesting, is that we can get these energetic blockages in certain places, but because you have autonomy over your body and your energy fields, what might be really good for you and your inner children is to, because kids love imagination, they love to play. Okay. We need to figure out some type of story or imagery where all of that is dripping down into our body like honey
yeah,
or slime or whatever they want to do, and just dripping down through our feet into Mother Earth. We need to
okay,
move that out of here as soon as we can, because that
okay.
choking feeling is very scary
Mhm.
to your central nervous system and to your body.
Right.
Even though we know that's not what's happening, like you've had a panic attack before, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
like you're not going to, but it does feel like that when it's happening.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
So we need to, when that's happening, say, hey, what do y'all want to drip down? And maybe they'll give you different things like glitter, slime, honey, paint, whatever, and just like tell them, I want you to imagine it pouring down our neck into our body and then going out of our feet and into the earth. Okay, we're giving Mother Gaia all the glitter or the honey or whatever. Because I can see where that when that happens, you are constricting into safety and survival and trying to keep your body safe, and then we're kind of out of logical and analytical thinking skills, and we're not even able to access our higher self or our inner children.
Mhm.
So we need to first safety first. So before we try and like regulate anything else, we just need to get that energy at least out of our throat chakra.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that'll be beneficial first.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So how does that feel hearing that?
Yeah, it feels fun. It
Okay.
feels good.
Good. I could hear your inner children being like, "Oh, we get to choose what the thing." I was like, "Yeah, dude, you can be anything you want." Okay. And pouring down. Okay. Okay. So, what's the next thing that happens after that?
After like the feelings here,
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like it's kind of like the start of the shutdown of my energy. Yeah.
You start retracting into yourself.
Mhm.
Okay. And then what happens
Uh,
after that?
it's like it's the like it's as a young child, if something was happening, I wasn't able to like have voice to it.
Hmm.
And I think that it sort of gets recreated in present day when I'm talking to her about something that's like, anyway, a feeling will come up or she'll say something and then it just starts the shutdown process again.
Hmm. Okay. So, because she's just now moving in and the reactionary is going to be higher in the beginning. What I would suggest is when you start feeling that happening and you're having a conversation with her, is to hold those boundaries if you can. I know having elderly parents is a little bit more difficult, but when you feel those things happening, of saying, I need to recollect myself really quick,
Yeah.
because the main thing that we need to do is safety and security, and showing the inner children that you are in protection mode of them, and like, hey, I will just remove myself for 5 or 10 minutes and then come back and have this conversation, but I just need to show y'all that we're safe and that we can walk away
Mhm.
and we can take a breath, move that energy. Let me have a conversation with y'all to figure out like why you're getting upset. Okay, in 10 minutes, then let's go talk to her again. I know that's kind of time consuming in the beginning,
I
but
think that's okay. I think because also she might be having something coming up for her
Sure.
too. And what I want for us is not to just be a constant trigger for each other, but
Mhm.
be healing,
Yeah.
and um, so yeah, maybe, it'll be good to be in the habit of that, just taking a break, and I can ask the same of her, if and
Mhm.
give her that opportunity also. Like if you need to take a
Hey, do you
break.
need a 10-minute break?
Yeah.
Let's just go take a 10-minute break
Yeah.
and get
Yeah.
some air, right? This is and that would be good for her too, mainly with your inner children. It's just showing them we are not in that reality anymore because what has happened in the past, what I would assume is because we're a young child, we can't get out of the situation.
Mhm.
And that's where the shutdown starts happening because now we're going into protective survival mode and trying to keep ourselves like bracing for impact, right? Okay. So if we can just say, hey, I'm going to actually go to the beach for 10 minutes so I can go take a breath and then talk to y'all and show you, we can leave at any time.
Right.
So
Right.
we can step away from the conversation. We are grown adults, we are autonomous, and this is actually going to be more beneficial for us to do this and step away than continue in those situations like maybe we had to in the past, right? So moving them from the situation, that's going to do wonders. Just be like, hey, I'm autonomous adult right now. And even
Right.
if it hurts her feelings, y'all's feelings are more important than her feelings.
Right. Right.
Because that's a fact. I know that it probably doesn't sound like my because it's my mom or whatever, but we are having to take on that guardian protector role of our inner children. So we have to put them at number one.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's best for them. Yeah. Okay. What comes up when we say that?
It just reminds me of like how my sisters are with her. They have kids. And so
Hmm.
they're like the kids, like I'm protecting them. That's more important. So it kind of I never had children. So it's like that
Yeah.
similar experience of, you know, that comes first.
It's probably a bit more of a foreign concept when you don't have kids yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or you haven't put yourself first in a lot of situations. But I will tell you that the more that you put yourself first and your inner children first, the better relationship you will have with her.
Right. Right.
Because now they're feeling safe and that you got them and that it doesn't matter if y'all get triggered, you have tools and resources and they don't have to take
Right.
over your consciousness. So you're like, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything will run smoother. Okay, but that's with anything in life, though, putting yourself first.
I'm really excited to do this work. I can
Yeah.
feel like what it's gonna like I can imagine what it's gonna be like on like down the road when I've gotten
Hmm.
really good at putting this into habit and doing some, even validating the feelings and helping with the release. I think it's going to allow me to just be it easier to speak my truth.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
I'm
gonna
really
help with multitudes of areas, not just with mom, but like all like work, everything. Right. So this is it's a good mirror though, because she's
Mhm.
coming, and then you have an active person to work it out with for all these other different areas, right?
Right.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna go over some of the things that came up, unless you have other questions about the inner child stuff.
I don't think so. I think I have a plan, I have a
Mhm.
space and yeah, I think all of that information is really, really helpful. So thank you.
Yes. I will say one thing because I don't know what your relationship with your mother is, but with my grandmother, as she kind of got older, and I'm not trying to scare you or put this into your mind, this is just like a what if scenario. Okay. So my grandmother had a lot of things that she had not healed within herself, and she was very reactionary sometimes, and she would get very angry, but then at the same time, she was having like not Alzheimer's necessarily, but just aging stuff going on. And she would get very reactionary when I used to hold boundaries, and she would want to argue. And I would say, okay, I'm leaving. I'm not going to participate in that.
Mhm.
And so I would go find me a place, like we talked about, right? Because I knew that arguing was not going to help the situation. And I needed to keep my inner children safe and not allow them to go back into those old patterns of being. And I needed to step back into adult Sage and not be coming at those conversations as a wounded inner child, having those conversations with her.
I know that there's family members that are very concerned about how to handle her when she gets, she can get very mean and combative.
Okay. That's probably why I felt I needed to say it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I will be better prepared to, have a boundary and, I don't want to get into I don't want to
Right.
be the sponge for that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
When you get into those, because what was happening with me is my inner children would come up and be like, oh, we're an adult now, we can argue, we're not
mhm,
gonna like all that stuff, because now they're in an adult body, so it's basically an inner child in an adult body. Okay, so I had to learn like, no, no, we're not going to do that, we're just
mhm.
going to leave the space, and then we will come back when everything is cooled down, and then we will have another conversation.
Right, right.
Yeah. And if it does come to a point where you need persons to come in and help you with that too, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not capable. Like
Right,
sometimes
right,
it's a lot taking care of elderly persons.
right,
Okay.
right.
Right. Yes. Okay.
I feel like I have support, and I'm not taking it all on all at once. I've have a few things planned, and so I have someone that she knows that'll be here when I'm not, and so
Oh, great. Okay.
be with her, and then I'm gone, and then I come back, and then I leave. So, and that's pretty much a continuing thing the whole time she'll be with me, and then I'll be setting her up in her own place,
Okay.
midsummer, and so a lot of, when she first gets here after the landing, it'll be like, introducing her to this new place and setting her up and helping her get her things together for her new apartment, which will be all positive and fun things. So,
Great.
but yeah, when the need for her to get combative, I'll
Just
just
leave.
have a really strong boundary against that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as she's safe. Like, don't leave it if you know she's.
Yeah.
Because I know
Yeah.
she has some mental things going on. You know what I mean. But if it's a place where like I'm going to go take a walk on the beach,
Yep.
just go do that,
Yep.
and that will help you with your inner children with trusting you of like, no, she got us.
Yep.
And she got us. Okay. Okay. So some things that came up. One, I felt what do you do with your energy healing abilities in regards to people and their ancestors, if anything, right now?
I don't think I am actively doing anything right now in regards to that. I am just beginning to do like sound healing for folks. And
Hmm.
so I was asked to do that for a retreat recently, and
Oh,
I could
congratulations.
definitely, thank you. I could definitely feel and sense all of the ancestors in the room, and we
Mhm.
all talked about it and experienced something really beautiful, and it was very healing. It was a release of shame workshop. Um, and so I'm just beginning that work.
Okay. Are you doing any type of like past life regressions or anything?
I work with an energy healer here in town where we do Akashic work,
Hmm.
and she's helps me understand, a lot of my experiences beyond this lifetime.
Hmm.
Also, I would say we're in the beginning of venturing into that.
Cool. Okay. And then how much work have you done with your inner children thus far? That way I can kind of figure out how to help you with this gift we're about to talk about.
That I'm in the pretty beginning stages of that as well.
Cool. Okay. So when I went into your field, again, there was like a lot of anger that was in your chest area, like in your heart chakra and your high heart chakra. And your higher self was saying that it was ancestral trauma that's held within there. So some of the anger, your mom isn't, we could see her as an ancestor, but she's still here on this. But she's
Mhm.
like further back in your generation, right? Okay. But this is stuff that has happened to previous ancestors of yours who were oppressed or persecuted. Just some like heavy stuff that has happened, probably having to do with like witch stuff, being
Mhm.
healers, all that stuff. But you can actually see more of your Akasha field than I think that you're consciously aware of it sometimes, because I can see you seeing all that stuff. like here. So maybe it's even like a future version of you that I'm looking at all those different things. Okay.
Okay.
So when I saw you, you were doing a lot of tribal dancing outside with your bare feet on the earth to transmute the anger. And I don't know if that's something that you currently do, but that might be something you want to add into your like repertoire, because hearing this will bring a lot of that stuff forward even more. But your higher self was saying that's a really great way to get a lot of that out of your body and to help your ancestral lineage. And you can also listen to tribal music to help you
Mhm.
have memories if you want as well.
That used to be a practice of mine. Yeah, when I got upset and triggered, it was headphones, go outside, get on the bare ground, get
Mhm.
barefoot. And it was so healing so fast, and I kind of fell out of the practice. So I'm really happy to hear that come through.
Yeah, she's saying that would be really beneficial again. And sometimes we just take break from things because they're not in resonance, but she's saying with this specifically, it would be really beneficial. And you'll not necessarily remember a lot of stuff because you don't need to remember a lot of it. It's more just transmuting it out of your body. Okay. But to go deeper than that, so I saw you, this is the second time I've seen this with somebody. You like rotated this thing in your heart chakra and it popped out like a disc, and there was when you slice a tree open, like we don't want to slice trees open. When you see one and you see all the rungs and you can tell how old it is. So I
Mhm.
saw you looking at your own kind of tree trunk here that came out of your heart, and you were tracing like your finger over all these lines trying to find all the different ancestors who had experienced these things. And your higher self was saying that in the future you will have the ability to go into people's Akashic records, find their different ancestors, speak with them directly, and then you can help them transmute and heal that pain. Right. And that's something that I do with inner children right now. I don't do it so much with ancestors, but I'll take people into meditation through their heart space, and we will actually meet with the inner child in that timeline in the past. And so we all three can speak together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's a much deeper level because it's not actually healing memories, it's timeline healing.
Right.
And so your higher self is saying that you can do that with different people's ancestors, and you all have all this kind of like mediator. And so it's a little bit different than past life regression because you're not really trying to pull from these different incarnations, you're pulling from like an ancestral line. But even in that, let's say that you have Charles over here. Okay, so you have Charles and he has all his ancestors back here. Okay. Once you learn how to do that, then you can actually hop over here to different incarnations of his with their different ancestors. So it starts getting more expansive and more expansive. You're able to heal more of their soul. Your higher self said that once you learn how to do that within yourself, because that's where we start, right? So you probably the tribal dancing is a great place to start there because that'll help you pull forward in your Akasha field which ancestors need the most help right now with that. You go into meditation, have the conversations with them, ask them what they need, utilize your energy healing abilities. A great place to start is with your inner children because they're closer in your Akasha field than your
Okay.
ancestors. Does that make sense? Because they're closer to your now experience. So if you
Yeah.
start helping heal their timelines, it's much easier to perceive these different ancestors. So you go in, speak with them, use your energy healing abilities, and then you will be able to take this ability and teach other people how to do it, kind of like I do now with inner child healing. Your
Okay.
higher self called you a teacher of teachers.
Okay.
So this is something that you're going to be able to eventually like, hey, let me certify you in this if that's what you want to do. This type of ancestral healing. Okay. So what comes up when I say that?
Um, it's what comes up. Um, I think I'm excited to learn how to do this.
Mhm.
I've been, you know, starting this process within the last 6 months to a year.
Mhm.
When my dad told me a story about his dad, and ever since then, I've been like, when I want to connect with his father's soul where he's stuck, I'll do an energy clearing for him.
Mhm.
And so um I it's hard for me to like think beyond that,
Yeah.
like what it means to be a teacher of teachers, because I feel like I'm just in right now in this moment, like feel like I'm just learning, like
Mhm.
it's the beginning, and so it's hard to think what that means or what it's going to look like or feel like. But I do know that like people feel comfortable around me and grounded and come to me a lot. So to have like to focus it
Mhm.
and that energy and what I can do, I like the sound of that.
Awesome. Okay. The healers that you're going to be working with are the persons whom you will be teaching on a bigger scale later on, are not just people that are wanting to heal like ancestor stuff. Okay. These are persons who have a very wide scope of their own Akasha fields, and they know that these things are coming from different incarnations or coming from way back in their fields, and they want to karmic clear outs is not a good terminology because there's a lot of like negative stuff and like karma and things like ideologies. It's more so like, hey, I just want to clear out this heavy density and then help my ancestors and things of this nature, and help them release that pain from their timelines. So it's not necessarily like regular students. Does that make sense? Like these are very advanced persons. And so we need to start working on our concept, our self concept, and our confidence of like, oh, yeah, this is me. I can do this. I already know how to do this. Because that's what your higher self is like, hey, you already have all these structurings within you. They're already there. It's not learning.
Mhm, mhm.
You already know how to do it. It's self concept and confidence and time and practice. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, feeling the inner children is going to help me with the confidence for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And healing your inner children is the window to be able to do timeline healing. Like once
right.
you learn how to do it with your inner children, it's so easy to move over to
Mhm.
different facets in the Akashic records. And is it much easier than trying to start with different incarnations first.
Right, right.
Yes. Okay. So moving, and all you have to do, your higher self is saying too, is work with the inner kids. Everything else will download in the way it's supposed to. Do the tribal dancing so you can figure out what ancestors are requesting help from you to teach you how to do this type of healing. That's it. Don't overthink it.
Okay.
She just wants to give you a sneak preview of what you're going to be doing later on.
Okay.
Okay. If you choose, you don't have to do these things. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to do it.
Mhm.
Okay. So just that. Okay. So when I asked if there was any of your inner children that wanted to come forward to talk about anything, a little girl came forward. She's about 8 years old, and she seemed upset. And I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she was just having trouble speaking, kind of like we were talking about with like the throat things. And I said, "Hey, how about we go somewhere nice to go talk?" And so I took her to a lake, and then there was like these really cute cranes everywhere, like the birds, and she really enjoyed that. I was like, "Look!" And so we were sitting on this swing together. Like I don't know if you've ever seen those swings by lakes, but they're like 2 or 3 people can sit on them and you like swing. But anyway, okay, so we're sitting there, and I was like, "Hey, do you want a coloring book?" Because sometimes when I color, it helps me figure out how I'm feeling. And she said yes. And so we were sitting there coloring with one another. And I said, "Okay, well, what's going on? Why are you upset?" And she said, "Business is hard." And I said, "Yeah, girl, sometimes it is." Okay. I said, "Yeah," which is really funny because it's like, oh my gosh, you're only 8 and you're so worried about the business stuff. But like, I get it because I've always been like an entrepreneur trying to figure things out when I was like little. So have you felt that way?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I was like, "Yeah, girl, sometimes." And I said, one of the reasons that you feel that way is because we as energy healers are trying to fit ourselves in these boxes, like in like these like capitalistic boxes and like all these different things. I said, when we used to be like priestesses and shamans and people would just come to us, like they know about us, right? I said magic was more understood during those times. Um, And she said, I don't want to keep convincing people that it's real. Is what she said to me. Okay, about magic. And I said, okay, I understand that. Have you been feeling like that's kind of been representative of your journey in this incarnation of like having to convince people of these things? Okay. It's very tiring sometimes having to do that. Okay.
Right.
so, so I said, okay, first, what does magic mean to you? Because I was curious what she was going to say. And she said, being happy. I said, oh, and I said, do you feel happy? And she said, sometimes. I said, okay. I said, what does being happy mean to you? And she said, laughing, having fun, and playing. I said, that's great. I said, what are the things that's not making you happy then? And she said, the boring stuff. So that's probably your marketing. That's probably all the things like social media posts, taxes, like all those different things. Because she's a very perceptive child. She can see when I was looking at her, looking into her own Akasha field, she could see all these different timelines where she didn't have to do that stuff. And she was like, this is boring AF. Why am I having to do this right now? She's like, I didn't have to do this before. Okay. And I said, okay, I get that, and my inner children get really bored too with this human stuff that we have to do. Okay, but I said on the other side of that, I said we can reach so many more people. Like in the past and history, when we were like priestesses or shamans, you know, all the different things that we were, we only had our villages. Okay, or like the surrounding villages. I said we can reach like millions of people now. I said that's the beauty of social media, and she was like, okay, well, I guess that's right. Okay. Um, I said, what can Lisa do for you to make you a little bit more excited about the boring stuff? I said, what if she starts asking your advice of how to bring more happiness and joy and magic and fun and laughter? And she said, I would really like that.
Oh, okay.
I think that's part of that being seen and feeling heard and that she matters,
Mm-hmm.
because she and your other inner children too, when I get really stuck in my business and I'm feeling very 3D and like I'm not doing this anymore. It's just okay. I will ask them like, hey, what do y'all think I should do?
Mm-hmm.
And they always give me some type of answer that I would have not thought and is way more fun than what I was going to do in the first place.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay. Like even this morning I did that. I said, what do y'all think I should do? And they gave me some tips and I was like, oh, you know what? That's way easier than what I was trying to do over in stress land over here. And that's what attracts people to you too. If you're in that kind of like inner child type of energy in your marketing and your sales, people love that. They are so attracted to that.
Yeah, yeah.
So she wants you to start asking them. Okay. Uh, I said one of the reasons that you are feeling the weight of having to convince people about magic or being happy. Okay. I said, do you think that everybody thinks that they can reach this level of happiness? And she was like, I don't think that everybody thinks that they can. And I said, okay, I get that. That's like convincing stuff. And I said, the reason that you feel that way about them is because you feel that way about yourself.
Mm.
And you're getting that projected out into your clients or out into your marketing or out into your sales. Okay. So the second thing I put here was, or we're not in love with the life that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
We're waiting until we reach these levels of success or these levels of clients or, you know, yada, 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 yada. But that puts happiness off in the future instead of here in the
Right.
now. So I was telling her, I said, that really has to do with recentering and gratitude and appreciation. And then a question that your higher self had for you in the now was thinking about when you were a teen or you were a young child and we are just in the muck of it. Okay. We are just not a happy camper, okay, and not able to do the things that we want or not feeling seen, heard, and validated. What do you think that they would say about Lisa now? Even though you're not quote unquote in the place that you want to be, when they look at you, what do you think that they would say?
I think, I mean, it's kind of a miracle that I've ended up here and I have created a successful business and
Mm-hmm.
I've been independent and I do whatever, I do
Yep.
what I want in life and I have a very full, rich, powerful life. I think they would be pleasantly surprised, but also like, fuck yeah.
Right. So sometimes when we are striving for more, because that's just who we are, we're always going to do that. We're just always going to do that because we know there's more magic out there always. Okay.
Yeah.
But when we look back for a second and be like, wow, I really became the person that I wanted to be, and a million times over.
Mhm, mhm.
They're probably so freaking, they think I'm so cool. Right? Like, look at you being an energy healer, doing all these magical, wonderful things, right? And being able to do whatever you want to do. Sometimes I really need to recenter myself back in that, like, oh yeah, I can just like take off and go do whatever and talk about whatever I want and get paid for it and talk about magical things and help people and all this stuff. I said, I have become that person.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not asking you to grind it out until this, and this. They're happy where you at now. Okay. And so sometimes we are um taking on an overprotection mode with them of saying like, I know how rough that y'all had it, so I'm gonna try and get us to like this up here, right? And they're like, we're so happy right here.
Right, right.
Okay, so recentering there. So what comes up when you hear that? I don't know if I will be able to reach the level of happiness that I want to obtain. Because when we're running those energetics, we're pulling in people who are running those energetics as well.
Mhm.
And then we're pulling in clients, and I don't know if this has happened, okay, but we're pulling in clients who we're having to do a lot of transmutation work for them, or we're having to overly explain things, or we're having to pull down our frequency to match them. And that can be very exhausting and very draining.
Yeah, I resonate with that.
Okay.
Um, it's interesting. I have clients all over the world, and this is like my 3D job.
Mhm.
Something that we've noticed, my sister who works with me and we've noticed in the last year or so, the just the overall consciousness level of people and the time they want from us, and it doesn't, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to think about those two different worlds. And there's similarities,
What do
with
you do in your 3D job?
I started a company that does inventory management for the craft beer industry,
Okay.
and it's beer technology essentially. And so we have clients and I'm 24/7, I'm the on-call person.
Hmm.
I have been for 13 years. And so
That's
I've
intense.
yeah, and it's like this, you know, we've noticed in the last year that people don't necessarily need us, but they'll call just to like just have us there on the just sitting there listening to them.
Yeah, because they utilizing your energy healing.
Exactly. Yeah, and so it's just so
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Um,
first of all, I would probably be in I because you're a very intentional, loving person, and you're probably having your energy healing abilities just on all willy nilly, like all the time. I would probably rein that in a little bit when you're having those conversations on the phone, and putting up those energy healing boundaries, because otherwise you can be therapizing.
yeah, yeah, I am working on boundaries with them and
Okay.
just,
Yes.
with them and with friends and, everyone in my world. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about your clients and your business? Have you been having that happen previously where you're having to like exude a lot more energy, or you kind of use that convincing energy to kind of like propel people forward?
I don't know, I'm 13 years into that, so I don't have that same kind of like, I don't feel like I need to convince anybody if they don't want to, if it's stressful, they don't want it, I don't have to try to change their mind. Like, okay, that's fine.
Okay, let me rephrase then. Not
Okay.
necessarily with magic necessarily, and not with your energy healing abilities. Some people are very stuck in a narrative of I can't do these things because of this.
Mhm.
And they'll run that programming over and over. And then you're trying to speak to them and explain to them, like, hey, I can see past further in your timeline. And if we did X, Y, and Z, but then they're not doing it, that type of convincing energy. Like, I'm trying to convince you that if you could get to this over here, you would be in a much better reality, but they're not taking those steps. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Have you had any experiences in that realm?
Well, I guess, yeah, I have my sister who works for me. She has a lot of stuff, and I try to help her, but I can see she's kind of stuck in a pattern that keeps her, you know,
Mhm.
at low vibration, and I can't, like, I have to just step away and not try to dive in with her because I think that's part of it. She wants people to hang out in that low vibration with
Yeah.
her. And
Yeah.
so, I don't want to participate with that.
Yeah. And I can see that probably coming up with your mom too, eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully not, but maybe. Okay.
I
So,
definitely recognize that was a thing. I felt like, she would, verbally bite somebody, because she was feeling pain. And if they're feeling pain, that's a way to connect, in a way,
mm,
you know.
yeah,
And so,
trauma bonding.
yeah.
Okay. Your higher self wants you to take note of when this is happening with your energy healing clients because she was bringing that up for a reason, that there is some over exuding of your energy, of needing to, and that might not even be verbalizing because I'm not sure what kind of sessions that you have, but once you get into like timeline healing and things like that, and you're more like actively speaking to persons, like in long conversations, to just be mindful of that when you feel that kind of like tugging energy from persons, of that convincing of, I have to show you how happy your life can get if you do X, Y, and Z. Because if you're doing that for them and they don't have that drive within them and that motivation, they're not going to get that from you.
Right, right.
They have to have that. And that's kind of what your higher self was saying too. Like, we need to check where that's coming from inside of us too, of having to convince self that we can get to this level of happiness, and
Mhm,
us not thinking that we can get there is what will pull those people in.
mhm,
And a way that we can remedy that is saying, how can I be in love with my life right now?
mhm,
Instead of pushing, right?
mhm,
Because then when you do that, then you will pull people in who are also wildly in love with their lives and are super motivated and driven of, you give me the tools and resources and I'll do it. And then I will be in a completely different reality. It's a very different energy that you can have with your clientele. What questions do you have about that? I'm not saying in no way am I saying your clientele is doing anything negative
Oh,
right
right.
now. Okay. This might even be like future stuff that comes up. Your
Yeah.
higher self just wants you to not have to exude as much energy as you have been with clients in the past.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. What comes up when you hear that?
It feels good, it feels validating and it feels like, it's helping give structure,
Mhm.
and I don't know why the word time is coming into my mind, but it's like, don't waste your time, if they're not there, you can't force it, and just to remember that and to um yeah, have a boundary, I guess.
It's switching the internal dynamics of how you are mitigating sessions with people, or even like your sister, your mom, that too,
Mhm.
or anybody really. It's just switching the internal dynamics of, when I start to feel that pull of needing to be that caretaker and that convincer for them, I know that that's not going to help them. They have to be their own convincer. I can give them tools and resources, but I'm not going to exude this over here, because then you don't have enough for the people who are a completely different type of person, who are like super motivated and driven and like want to do all these things.
Right,
We need to be conserving our energy for those persons,
right,
because then
right,
you pull in more of them, and then all of a sudden you just have
right.
a reality full of those people. All right.
That sounds awesome.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So this is the plan how to get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yes. Okay. So any questions about anything else before we finish up?
I don't think so.
Okay. What was your biggest takeaway today?
I feel like I got a lot of tools. I feel like I'm better prepared for finding flow to like keeping myself safe and
Hmm.
to start working with my inner children in a way that I haven't yet done. And I'm really excited to move into this phase of healing, and to do the work in this way. I feel like I'm ready. And even after this session, I have a lot more information, more tools, and how to begin that. And yeah, I feel like I'm way better prepared for
Yay. Okay.
when my mom arrives.
Okay, good, good. You main thing with the inner children, just remember safety and communication. Like that's really what's going to help them is just safety and communication. That heals so many things: abandonment, trust wounds, fear of being seen, fear of being perceived, fear of persecution. Like it's multitudes of layers. Not only in this incarnation, but other incarnations as well. So I'm super excited for you in this phase that you're in because it's really going to be incredibly expansive when you hit this level with your inner children.
Yeah,
It
I
really
can I
is.
can sense that.
It's like, oh, we better work through all these behavioral patterns and triggers and all this stuff in Mike that house. So great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to send you your oracle cards and your crystal grid, and then I'll send you the replay of this. And if anything else comes up, let me know.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
I
Well,
love working with you. Thank
oh,
you.
you're so sweet. Thank you. I love working with you too. I know it's been a hot minute since our last session, but I see all the things that you're doing on social media, and it always just brings me a good smile every time I see you on there.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
Thank
welcome. Okay, you have a match.